I see that we're all setting up here. And we already have 10 people that are here. We're waiting just one more minute to get started, and we'll jump right in. Oh, end of the hour.
Did not have my video started here. And because I don't usually use Zoom in my recording studio, I need to just make sure I get cameras adjusted right. Everything's a little bit different. There we go.
So we have 30 more seconds, I think, before we get started. But David, how are you?
Not bad. I'm digging out of the post-conference email and receipt pile you get involved in because you don't check your normal emails. Then you meet a bunch of new people at the conference. You have all these new email addresses, and then you have like these promises you made at the conference, right? And then after that, and then you have a stack of receipts. So I'm just in that like shoveling out phase, trying to catch up.
So I think you're a veteran to this, so I think you'll do just fine. So it's already time. So first of all, welcome everybody. I'm Omri. I'm the co-founder of Anchor. We're a revenue automation system that enables you to automate everything from proposals to invoicing, automate your payments, and then sync it all up to QuickBooks. And for us being an app in this space, I think our next guest is probably one of the most interesting people in the industry. So
interesting is a bit of a reach. I don't know.
No.
I'm very one-dimensional. I only know like accounting apps, accounting people, accounting technology. I can't play guitar. Like there's not a lot of interesting happening. It's just very focused in this space.
And he's modest, everybody. So but kidding aside, you've been one of the pillars, I think, in at least the tech aspect of accounting. And I think you've been a very vivid voice representing, the evolution of the space. And, I assume that everybody listening here are already members of the podcast that we are all, the Cloud Accounting Podcast, we're all, probably subscribed to. And more than that, you've reached out and you've opened other things that are in service of the community. So, I'd love to jump into that soon. And, maybe we can start by you sharing with us a little bit about your journey, how you ended up here talking to me.
Yeah, I mean, so I started doing tech support for QuickBooks DOS in 1996. So I went on that journey from DOS to Windows to CD-ROM to QuickBooks could network with each other to having things on networks, right? And just that, and then to the cloud, right? So I've been on this long journey. So I spent about 5 years doing nothing but taking tech support calls. And then that naturally evolved into quality assurance. Quality assurance naturally evolved into some automated testing, which naturally involved to writing some poorly written code and engineering work. I basically did every role related to QuickBooks except for commission sales. I worked in marketing. I did everything but like real sales, genuine sales. But my last 6 years, I was kind of in sales. So I was working on the QuickBooks App Store and built out the QuickBooks App Store from about 3 apps to 750-ish when I left, somewhere in there. All the apps you've heard of, and the bill.coms, the Expensifys, the T-Sheets, the auto entries, the Hub Docs. The list just goes on and on and on. And then apps like Anchor, like new apps that are getting into the QuickBooks ecosystem, right? I'd worked very early on with apps when you're 2 founders, you're 6 employees, very, very small, just getting into the accounting community in the accounting space. And I kind of joke because even though I wasn't in sales, I was selling dreams, right? I would sell developers on the dream of like, hey, look at this. There's 2 million at the time. There was like 2 million QuickBooks Online customers, and but now there's 4.5 million QuickBooks Online customers. But I would sell the dream of like, hey, come to this world, integrate your app, look at the opportunity with accountants and bookkeepers. They're great, blah, 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 kind of like that. And then after I left Intuit, I did 2 stints at 2 different startups, kind of going on my own entrepreneurial journey. And during that whole time, I was Blake Oliver and I were doing the Cloud Accounting Podcast. So we're doing the Cloud Accounting Podcast. We just hit our 1,000,000th download last week. Been doing it for 5.5 years. If you haven't subscribed, it's easy to find. cloudaccountingpodcast.com. It's easy to get to. And about 2 years into that journey, people started asking if they could get CPE credit, so continuing education credit, for listening to episodes of the Cloud Accounting Podcast. Well, Blake went on a journey with NASBA. I think COVID helped, right? So I think NASBA was a little bit more open to alternative ways to get CPE because there was no in-person events. And the result of that is an app called Earmark. So the Earmark app allows you to listen to podcasts, maybe watch an on-demand video on YouTube, and you can take a quiz in the app and get CPE credit. And so we've kind of backed our way into CPE education. We didn't set out to do that. It just kind of happened. And then in the middle, in between Cloud Accounting Podcast, and if we think about Earmark, we have a production company. So we're creating podcasts for other people. We're creating podcasts from scratch. What the goal is, we want to have like a bell curve of podcasts. Because if we have an app to listen to get CPE for podcasts, we need to have a lot of good, high quality accounting podcasts out there. And so that's what we're trying to do in the middle, is create other accounting podcasts.
Amazing. So first of all, I think I admire everybody or anyone that is able to make a transition from corporate America, or any corporate to that matter, and actually start, his own journey as an entrepreneur. And I think it's very nice seeing you, meeting you. You're filled with energy every time. And I wonder if it's a personal trait, or it's like, it's a, new freedom that you found.
That jump is very scary. That is very scary. And it gets real when you're like, oh, I don't have a paycheck. And then you have to ask your significant other to put you on their insurance. That's when it gets real. Like, oh, you need to put me on your health insurance because I don't have health insurance anymore because I don't have a job. That's when it gets real. I
think that's a perfect shift maybe to our audience here.
But the good thing about this, right, is now that I'm an entrepreneur, I'm on the other side of the fence. So I get to be a client of accounting firms, which is a whole new world, right? That's actually been very eye-opening, is to be, I get the client experience from accounting firms now.
So you got fired recently.
I did get fired from a firm. Yes. Because the talent crunch, they just don't have enough bodies to do all the tax returns they need to do. And so I did get let go from a firm, like many small business owners, or many people have over the last 3-4 years have been fired from firms. My case was a labor thing. Sometimes, people get fired because they don't want to pay. People get fired because they're not good clients. There's all kinds of reasons, right?
This is fascinating to me because right now, the objective of this conversation is to add value to everyone listening around the app space. And, there's so many, whenever we go to a conference, I think half of the conversations are around, okay, what's your tech stack? And half of the conversations are, okay, how do I, plus my offering? How do I, advance? How do I, add value from different directions to, basically differentiate out of, this changing economy? And, we can jump into AI and stuff like that. But the fact that, and this is what we're seeing as anchor as well, is that people are looking for ways to, I think, bridge this gap of labor, time, burnout with technology. So what's your take on that?
Well, I think you don't have a choice, right? If you don't have bodies to do the work, you either have to take on less work, hence fire clients, right? Or you're going to have to figure out how to be more efficient, hence using apps, right? ChatGPT, anything to augment your capacity to do more, right? Nobody wants to fire their clients, but unfortunately, if you can't do the work for all your clients, you have to pick and choose and just do work for some of the clients. And it's just, we're having a talent crisis, and not just accounting, all industries, right? Across the economy. I mean, not just accounting firms are having a hard time getting people to work, right?
So what would be your, if such exists, 3 golden rules to how to build that, how to choose the right software for your practice?
I mean, at some level, going to a fixed fee billing model or subscription model is almost like step one. And then there's apps to help you, like Anchor, that'll help you do that. But it's almost step one, because once you go to a fixed fee or a subscription billing model, it changes your relationship with the clients, right? Instead of you billing after the fact per hour, if you're billing somebody per hour, ultimately in the end, you don't really have motivation to be more efficient. Like there's no reason to be more efficient because you're just going to bill less. So if you change your billing model first, now you have a reason. Okay, if I'm charging a client $300 a month, I got to figure out how to deliver my product offering for under $300 a month to be profitable. Right. And so now I'm going to figure out tools, techniques, labor, who knows, right? Whatever that tech stack I might put together is to automate some of those processes so I can deliver that service for $200 a month, $300 a month, right? Versus just billing after the fact. So changing your billing is like one of the fundamental things that'll help you, or it forces you to figure out how to be efficient. Like you don't have a choice, because you can't, if you're billing on a fixed subscription, you can't go back to the client. Well, I wasn't efficient this month, so I need to charge you, some extra money. You just can't do that on a subscription. I mean, think about it. If you're subscribed to Netflix, if they have a bad month, they're not going to come back and be like, hey, by the way, your Netflix, you got to pay me an extra $12 this month. You can't do that on subscription pricing. You have to figure it out. It forces you to solve the problem.
I think we're jumping and we're covering two topics here, but what you said makes a ton of sense for me, because when I'm looking at it, I think the first thing, if, I'm putting myself in other people's shoes, and, these are our clients, we're talking to them constantly, understanding, what are their pain points and how we can, fix those. I think what you touched upon is really the essence of it. Like every business needs to define their goals, what kind of lifestyle they want, what kind of relationship they want with their clients, what are they striving for. And I think there's very different ways to go about it, and that dictates what kind of technology you're using, and the technology needs to serve that, versus there's sort of a race that I think, creates a lot of confusion more than anything, and leads to some app fatigue, because people keep trying this, or looking for this something flashy that will solve their current pain without necessarily really defining, what kind of business do they want to have. And it's
do you want a firm that's hot, super high, expensive clients that pay you lots of money, but you only have a teeny amount of clients? Do you want a lifestyle firm so you can take off and go to all your kids' sporting events, things like that? Do you want a high volume firm where it's cheap, but you're going to pump out lots of volume? Yeah, right. If you have to define what do you want in your firm?
Yeah, exactly. I had this conversation with Ron Baker quite a bit. So he's naturally, pushing us all towards the subscription model, and he sees how that can, as you say, like push the boundaries into what's possible, and then put the responsibility back on us to step away from, the working with our hands, so to say, and leveraging the fact that, we're mind workers, and, you can leverage, and you should look at it as a relationship and how you can do it about. But I feel that right now it's a transition, and a lot of people are sometimes confused and timid by the different options. So after, you've welcomed so many apps into this space, whenever we're in conferences, you keep like pointing, you see these guys, they don't know what they're doing. You see these guys, great. So how would you advise, like the people that are listening to us, they're probably being exposed to a lot of different opportunities. How do you, when you're meeting a new app, how do you define, let's say if there's two apples, or like they're sort of, how do you decide?
So, I mean, this is something I've talked about for years, or I've done in webinars and tips and stuff. So when you find a new app, you go to the website. The first thing I look for is screenshots. If there's no screenshots of the product, chances are the product looks pretty crappy, and you aren't going to want to use it, frankly. And just stop there, full stop. It probably looks like an old Oracle iExpense product from 1996, right? Or like it just is. You're not going to want to use it, and you're probably not going to want to show it to your clients. And then on top of that, it makes you wonder: is the developer not even proud of their product? Like, why are there no screenshots? right? Or right. The other thing is pricing. If there's no pricing page, that always is concerning, right? Are they going to price you, right? Is it all enterprise sales? Are they actually, is it not even true SaaS, right? Like if you can't sign up for if there's no pricing page and no like try now, like if you can't click and try now, that usually tells me maybe it's not fully baked SaaS. A lot of times it's like, oh, we have to meet with you first, then we have to go to the back and our engineers will spin up an instance for you. Like, right. And then come back and then we're going to charge you. It's not a true kind of SaaS experience. And you don't have to go down those paths because there's so many other options in the market, right? So you can eliminate apps that are maybe not a good fit. Another thing to do is they have to have chat or email support. Like in this day and age, everybody's 24 hours a day. You can't only have a 9 to 5, 800 number to call, right? So ask them some questions on chat. If they have chat and they're like, well, we'll be back in touch with you in 24 hours, that's not going to work. The whole point of chat is to talk to them instantly. So you can use the, screenshots, pricing page. Can you do a free sign up, right? And then can you chat? Are they responsive? That tells you a lot about that app, right? And same thing when you go to the conferences. If you go to the conference, and conferences are a good place for community, right? If you go to a conference, you're probably not, especially an accounting conference, as a vendor, as an app, you're probably not going to close sales. I don't know, that's for lack, like they're accountants and bookkeepers. You're not going to close the deal, right? But a lot of companies will just send their brand new salesperson there. Oh, it's a conference, just send them and have them get some leads. But it's really an opportunity for you to have a discussion or conversation. So when you meet apps and you go and it's just like people that only started working there a week ago and the founders or senior product managers, senior marketing managers aren't there to have conversations with you, maybe that's a warning sign too, right? That app is kind of, I wouldn't say mailing it in. It's going to be a reflection on their culture and how they're probably going to treat you as a customer too. Right? They're going, oh, well, you're just going to talk to our support people. We're not going to talk to the product managers, won't talk to you. Right. And things like that. So I think it's like, that's another way to like in-person interactions, but those are fewer and far between, right? You could look at 100 apps today and not all 100 will be at a conference, but those are kind of, so yeah, screenshots, pricing, a trial, and email or chat are probably the ones I recommend.
Everything is pretty common sense, I think. So, but it's a matter of implementing it. But let's dive into maybe that's the things that, are the hot potato. Everybody are talking about AI and, the ways that they're going to be implemented in our environment and how will it take effect. So everybody has their own vision of it, but, I'd love to hear yours.
I mean, I really, in general, if I think about us doing the podcast, the last 5.5 years, we've seen hot things come. Oh, everything was the blockchain. Oh, the blockchain. Every accountant needs to go to learn blockchain. Every conference session, blockchain. And firms and people wasted so much time on that. And it didn't affect accounting at all. Yes, there could be some very specific use cases with NFTs or digital assets for a certain amount of companies, but in general, it still might be 20 years off. And then the whole metaverse wave. Oh, the metaverse, we're all gonna wear these goggles and that's how we're gonna interact and do our meetings. That's probably never happening, right? There's like these gimmicky technologies that come along. I mean, obviously cloud wasn't. The shift to cloud and SaaS is real. It's stuck around, right? Arguably, it's I wouldn't say it's over, but it's kind of a given now, right? Nobody says cloud. Well, we still say cloud accounting podcast, but ultimately nobody says cloud anymore per se. And then you have this, and then ChatGPT now has just been so fast and it has legs, unlike metaverse and all these things are just people are just trying too hard. Like this has genuine legs that I have not seen in a long time in the tech industry, right? And I'm hopefully everybody attending, right? If you're in the chat, say, hey, let us know if you're using ChatGPT or trying to. I recommend everybody probably start messing with it every day. Spend a half hour doing something with it, trying to replace work with it, do something with it, because it's coming faster than you think, and it's going to be everywhere. Even Intuit, they kind of 2 weeks in a row now, they've had these press releases out. Last 2 weeks ago, it was like, oh, we have 700 patents. Then this last week, they announced a whole operating system. So they have like 4 different pieces of their AI stack, and they want to be what was it? It's language model. I always forget what the acronym is for ChatGPT, right? But they want to be like the financial language model for all things financial. And right now they're currently doing 58 billion AI decisions a day. Now, obviously that's a lot of bank feeds and those types of things, but Intuit is like all in. And then Microsoft is going to offer Copilot and all the Office 365 stack. So using an accountant or bookkeeper, like, you're going to have AI stuff in front of you within the next 3 months in apps built in. When that's out in Microsoft, that means it's in Excel. That's in all the tools all accountants use, right? It's going to be in your Outlook. It's going to be in Microsoft Teams. You're going to have this in front of your face all the time. It has its own limitations though, right? In a way, it's guessing what's next, right? In the same way, like you have if you think about spell check first, figure out what it was guessing what word you wanted to spell and it put the right word in. And then eventually like Microsoft Outlook and Gmail, you start typing your email and it puts in the next word for you, right? But you're typing it. It's kind of doing that. So sometimes it guesses what the next word is and it's wrong, right? It doesn't. So it's got some limitations, and it also, you can train it, which is cool, but it also doesn't remember like what you trained it a week ago on, because right now it's not locked into your data. And there's some tools to like Zapier and connections that way. But I think I understand, in general, like Microsoft's going to have a level of their ChatGPT or whoever's calling it, the current name. And you'll be able to have some sort of subscription where you can have it tied to your backend data. So it's tied to what you teach it, not what the rest of the world's teaching it. And that I think is going to be a big deal, because now you can almost create a custom personal assistant, or, basically a $200 a month intern, which is pretty cheap, right? In the grand scheme of things. Are you using it?
So definitely, we're both using it, and we're thinking about how we use it and not abuse it, because right now, as you said, everything is very trendy, and companies have a tendency to, okay, we have to be on this new shiny object, and okay, so okay, we have invoicing, so we give you an engine to create a description or something meaningless that you don't really need. So we're very, very hesitant with what we bake into the system to keep it very, very simple, agile, and not clutter things. So we're working on a few things that are actually what we call, can move the needle for people. And I think a lot of the conversations or the things that we're trying to implement is seeing how we're empowering people and giving them, a lot of people think, oh, this is potentially going to replace a lot of jobs. I don't think so. Yes, in the future, but for most people right now that are experiencing this transformation, I think it's a tool like every other tool. We spoke with one of our really early clients, and she bought a firm. She was working at a firm, and then she bought a practice, and QuickBooks just came out. And everybody around her warned her, no, don't work with them. They'll end the profession. After that, we won't have a job. It's this software that's going to automate us out of a job. So, and right now QuickBooks are, the platform that we all use. And
it created more work for accountants and bookkeepers than any other thing has ever created. Yeah.
I think this is maybe the challenge in the transition for our space specifically, is understanding where is the value that we're able to bring. And I think for me specifically, looking into this is the relationships. Like accountants and bookkeepers have something that I feel they don't leverage enough. They are a trusted advisor. They're able to take that trust and pour a lot of content into that trust that will add so much more than, okay, this exchange of time, this exchange of, scope of work. And if you do that, it's sort of like an insurance policy against automating stuff, because you can always, use it to your advantage. It becomes a tool versus competition, so to say. But I see that we have some questions. So, so we have, so yes, we have Nancy here. So yes, you just heard me tell your story. So, hey, Nancy. So basically, this is how we approach AI. We think it's very, very interesting. Like the capabilities that it holds. I don't think we even seen the like maybe 10% of it, and it's going to, for me at least as a software company, it's going to dramatically change a lot of the ways that we think about even generating code, how you do like things internally. Right now, so many tools. Some of them are already quite mature. Some of them are just very early stage, that are trying to automate a lot of the processes. And if you're looking and you're hearing venture capital, but they're trying to predict the future, they're saying, okay, like 20, 30 years ago, to create a $1 billion company, you had to have like 10,000 people. And then, it changed, and you can create it, with 30 people right now. If you look at, I think Instagram were 16 people or something like that when they were purchased for, 1 billion, and WhatsApp was similar size, bought for a lot more. So with AI, what they're predicting is you're going to see companies with 3 people that are able to generate an impact and get to a 1 billion stage, just because they have that capacity to leverage technology and have, a free employee that does right now what you called as very coldly bodies.
Well, I mean, it's you like going back to about advising, right? You can't do advising. You really can't do advising. You can't be the trusted advisor if you're just bogged down in the weeds. You just can't do it. And you're just too busy. It's hard. How do you even get the headspace to advise a client? Never mind having the calendar time to advise a client or be that trusted advisor. And that's where like something like a ChatGPT, like people are like, depending on what your job is, like some people are seeing a 5x productivity boost. And I can see it on some parts of my job. And you've probably, everybody's done this. You have to, if you ever written a blog post, right? You open up the browser page, or your doc, your Word doc, you type a paragraph, you backspace it off, you type a paragraph, you backspace it off, and it takes you 5 days to make a rough draft. If after 5 days, you've actually finished writing your rough draft of your blog post, right? You get distracted, you start, you stop, you get coffee, you find an excuse not to work on it. Well, but you've thought about it in your car, like you have the bullets of the blog post in your brain. You know what you want to communicate. It's hard to write down that rough draft. Well, you could basically give those bullets to something like ChatGPT, and in 16 seconds, you have a rough draft. That just saved you 5 hours. And now you can just massage it and tweak it and mush it together to be your blog post. And so like, if you think about, there's just over and over again, there's all these small opportunities like that. You just saved yourself 5 hours here. You saved somebody 5 hours here. Like we're at the point now with Earmark, we have all our employees using it for all parts of their jobs. Like we really encourage them to use it because it's, it's how you stay lean and mean, right? Everybody, accounting firms, like you can't have bloat in your company. The economy's tight. You got to be efficient, right? And this helps. It's not perfect. It's not perfect, but it's very helpful.
I want to challenge you with this because you're a content creator, and the majority of right now, the AI technology that we have, I think caters to this specific industry more than anything, whether it's, the written word or, automating video and a lot of these. And again, for me as a software development, so we have a lot of tools that go into, how you optimize these things. But let's think about, the people that are listening here that, the majority of them are not writing blog posts. The majority of them have, a practice that they run, and, blog post is potentially part of it, but it's a small part. Have you seen any technologies or anything that are leveraging that in a way that can actually be beneficial for them right now, or this is still,
So like let's say you don't write blog posts, you're an accountant or bookkeeper. Everybody needs to have engagement letters. Those take time and are hassle. For a lot of people, they've never even written their first engagement letter. It's too much work.
I would argue with you there that they don't need it, that they can use Anchor and get rid of that.
They could use it. It could be a welcome letter. It could be the welcome checklist, right? There are all these things you could actually create in ChatGPT, copy it, it's 99% of there, and then paste it into your Word doc, paste it in. Maybe your banker has its default terms of service. Maybe you want to create custom terms of service. You could use ChatGPT. Hey, take these anchor terms of service, paste them in. I have these additional 6 things in my terms of service. Pump out a new terms of service, right?
So,
And it could do that, and then you save it to PDF, put an anchor, right?
Even more, because I think like we're looking at the comments you asked, like who's using it, and a lot of people raise their hands that they're dabbling with it, and
yeah,
really everything that has to do with text is something that is a given. You've seen so much. What would you create for the accounting space, that you feel could be beneficial, with AI?
Blake and I talk about this all the time. It's the your onboarding slash breaking out the whole when you've done it, right? You go to a new accountant and they send you that PDF, the questionnaire form with all the things you need, right? And a lot of times you go back and forth for months with the client, right? Until you get everything you need to actually execute a tax return or actually execute the work, right? Well, I could easily see, and somebody's going to do it very soon, where your onboarding portal and your client interaction to get all those docs will just be ChatGPT. The ChatGPT will say, hey, here's the things we need. Oh, you still didn't send that to me. I need this. Then if the client's like, why do I need this? It can respond back, you need this because of this. And then it could ask them clarifying questions. Oh, did you have any children? No. Okay, then I won't ask you for these. Because right now everybody gets the same generic 45-page blank PDF in their inbox, right? And they don't want to fill it out. And so that could be, somebody's going to do that. The onboarding client experience is going to get automated. Like that makes so much sense because in general, it is a chat back and forth. And it's not high value chat for either side, right? The client's just trying to understand what you need. Me as the client, what do I need to get you? Why do I need to get you that? Right, I'll get it uploaded. And on the other side, you as the accounting firm or the person doing the work, these conversations are just a lot of work, right? You just want the docs, you could do the work, but you spend hours on these conversations back and forth. Okay, I still need this work. I still need this work. And then you wait till everything's there. ChatGPT will send you an email like, hey, okay, now you can start working on client X. They've gotten you all the docs, right? Instead of because what happens, the workflow is you start to do the work and you realize, oh, I don't have everything. Then you email the client back and then you put the work on pause, right? It's just not very efficient. So there's just by the onboarding client experience, right? And those questionnaires or tax organizers, for lack of a better word for those, that is going to get probably done first because it's a conversation. In the end, it's a conversation where once you have clarity, you upload a doc. Then you have a different conversation on a different part of it. And you upload a doc, right? Instead of that's very naturally somebody's going to build that. That will be huge, actually.
So I think we already seen a few things that are making an attempt to do that. You've just been to conferences. What do you feel that for people that haven't been there, something that you can share that maybe is a good insight for all of us that for people that haven't been there?
Like you haven't been to any conferences?
Oh, like the late ones. You've been hopping around.
Yeah, I've been hopping around. I mean, I think sometimes they still feel like the same, right? I mean, all the important part is the physical hugs, the interactions, a beer here and there, those are all the super important parts of conferences. I think in general, the game's still the same. There's a lot of vendors, right? There's a lot of apps to go talk to. It's hard to talk to all of them. I know ASCP Engage had 2 show floors, basically. It's really hard to get through that many apps. And unfortunately, they're not organized in perfect ways, right? Where it's like, oh, here's all the apps for cast work with clients. Here's the dashboard apps. Here's the inventory apps. They're never organized that way. So you really have to come up with a plan of attack before you go hit a show floor. And depending on the conference, some people take a whole day, right? I'm not going to go to sessions that day. I'm just going to go meet the apps, right? I think that a lot of the sessions, AI was very hot at ASCP Engage, right? Obviously. And it's probably going to be that for the rest of the year. All the conferences, there's going to be lots of sessions on AI this, AI that. Obviously, our conversation is about apps, and what are we doing? We're talking about AI, right? Like it is, I don't think you can have the conversation without including AI. I think if I think about 700 apps on the QuickBooks App Store, within the next 6 months, 350, 400 of those apps are going to have AI built in some way. They will have some function that's using a GPT type tool to pump out some result.
Yeah, right now, I think, at least with the things that we're playing with, there's things that are far more advanced than just taking ChatGPT as that base. You have things that you can actually leverage to execute things, because you can, as you said, you can plug it into, a database. You can actually have it search online and have additional information. You can have it scan stuff and then actually make conclusions. So I think I completely agree with you. We're going to see a lot of, a wave of innovation. So if I'm taking you, 3 years into the future, like how would a tech stack look for, for an accounting practice?
Well, I think you're obviously, we talked about before, something like Anchor for your billing, right? Because you're gonna pre-bill for everything. You're gonna put them on a subscription. It's the best model. They're paying you whatever they're paying you every month. You're billing them the first of the month. You do the work. It's not, you never give work back until it's been paid for, right? And so if you can bill, actually, I heard, I think it's Jordan Grudden. He put his firm back in the day on weekly billing. So weekly billing, weekly closing the books. And I thought it was really interesting because you think at some level it's going to take more work, but it really doesn't, because then you have a nice rhythm. Like that small business owner knows, okay, every Friday afternoon, they're going to close my book. So I got to get the last little, then they only fall behind 2 or 3 days. They're never behind. It gives a small business owner, next, you're behind 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks of crap, right? You can't keep up. And so it's kind of interesting. So it's like bill every week, close the books every week. Everybody got closed books every week, and everybody got billed every week, which is really, really interesting as far as a recurring revenue type model. But yeah, you're going to have software to help you bill automatically every month. You're going to have software like 3 years from now. You're going to have some sort of onboarding question software, right? You think about, not every client can ask you every question, right? The onboarding, you're going to have software doing that, right? Some GPT chatty type thing. Maybe by that time, you'll be able to everybody has these internal wikis with all this knowledge, and as entrepreneurs, you're trying to take what's in your brain and share it with your team. But those things always suck, right? You can't find stuff. Even yourself, you'll document something for your team, and then nobody can find it or use it. So they keep asking you questions. You think about a chat interface where external clients can use it to ask you questions indirectly, but your team too can ask you questions. So you're going to have some sort of chat interface that's kind of your first line. And this is the wrong answer, but in a way, it's like a first line of defense, right? Like people are going to use that first, and defense is not the best word, because it's probably going to be a faster, more reliable answer than probably you're going to. If you as the entrepreneur, if your name's on the shingle of that CPA firm or that a bookkeeping firm, and that client emails you when you have 300 clients, the odds of you getting that email and responding back in 24 hours is probably low. But they could talk to ChatGPT and get a response instantly. And then it's that. Now you can do second tier type advising or communicating where, hey, I'm going to spend time with you once a week for 2 hours. And we're not going to talk about all those teeny little minutia stuff. We're going to talk about real stuff, right? So I think so basically you have software to help you bill up front, right? You're probably going to have some chat type thing. You're still going to have a tool on the back end for managing the work, a process street type tool, to make sure work's getting done. And not only that, work's being done correctly. I think a lot of people, they have a checklist of work that's being done, but they don't have extra checks on making sure the work's been done correctly. And some of that is just the environment we're in. If you don't have a lot of time and bodies, how do you implement? Who has time to be like, all right, your job is to check the work of your teammates. You don't have the body to check it. Now, ChatGPT could actually come in and double check things, making sure things didn't get left out of the process, or go back and look at prior conversations, right? Because and Blake was talking about this at the conference. His mom is working with an accounting firm. They got bought by another accounting firm. They did her return, filed it for her, and they said she was blind. So there's no check, right? But you could have something like a ChatGPT could easily say, hey, here's the return. Check this against all our other conversations with that client. Let us know if there's any anomalies. And maybe the client, the ChatGPT is like, well, they never said blind on any of their old stuff. Maybe you should take a look at this, right? Those are the types of things where a tool is going to help, right? But that's a quality check, right? That's happening. So you're going to have software for your actual processes and doing the work, right? Obviously, everybody's going to still be using Excel 3 years from now. Like that's not going away anytime soon. And maybe using it even more. I actually think, based on where Microsoft and, well, for most accountants, bookkeepers are already in the Microsoft stack, but from what it looks like with Microsoft implementing into Outlook, I mean, I like the swing back towards Outlook versus Gmail could happen here. Like I could definitely see a lot of people with the advantage of the full AI in your Office suite. Like there's no point of using Google anymore. Like I could see a huge swing back away from the Google app stacks back over. But for most accountants, bookkeepers already on the Microsoft stack. I think there's still going to be, some sort of dashboard graphy tool you'll still use to facilitate conversations with clients. But even that might be less, because why do I want a dashboard if I could just have a chat tool where I can be like, where are my sales last quarter? And it's just going to tell me. Like, why do I want a dashboard? So even dashboards could be a thing of the past 3 years from now. It's hard to say. But again, here go the conversations keep tying back to a chat type interface. It's so natural.
After what you said, maybe we should, consider buying stock. But
which stock? There's so many AI plays. You don't know who to buy it in. That's the tricky part.
Microsoft, but a disclaimer: this is not recommending anyone to buy anything. But I think Microsoft has done a lot of really, really smart moves, business-wise and technology-wise, both in terms of entering the game space, like casual gaming, and then owning those platforms, and investing in ChatGPT ahead of everybody, and being able to push it really, really quickly. What advice would you give, yourself, 20 years ago?
20 years ago, what advice would I give myself? It's okay to like not know your career. I don't know if that makes any sense. Like, if I think about back to like, I'm pushing like 25, 30 years ago, you're graduating high school, you're going to go to college, and there's in those days, a very clear career path. Like, oh, you could be an accountant. And at that time, I think it was the big 7, right? It wasn't even the big 4, it's still the big 7. And there was like this path to take. And, if you think about it, I have a job that did not, well, neither job existed. If I think about it, I had a job as a ecosystem evangelist when I was at Intuit about third-party SaaS apps. SaaS didn't exist. App stores didn't exist. You think about that, right? And now I have a job as a podcast host. That didn't exist. Podcasting didn't exist. So it's like, chances are like 30 years ago when you're young, the job you might have doesn't exist yet. So like, don't get so hung up on it, because people are very like, oh, I'm going to have to do this for the next 35, 40, 50, 60 years. Chances are the job you'll be doing doesn't exist today. Right? There's just going to be new jobs. Instagram influencer, and ChatGPT is going to change a lot, right? There's going to be, if people, I don't know, today, if you're a professional blog writer, maybe ChatGPT is going to do a lot of your works. Well, now you're going to have elbow room to be creative in other means of your life, and you're going to invent something new, a new job, a new service that businesses will want, right? So that's the advice I give myself, that you don't have to be so locked into the future, because it's just going to change. There's always something new.
Don't stress about it. And what's the best business advice you ever received?
I think the best business advice, I had a manager at Intuit. This is about 7, 8 years of my career. And he just said, like, ignore your title. Like, it doesn't matter what your title says, and just like, go work. And when I say go work, get stuff done, go build, go create, change the world. Like, you don't be limited by what your title is. And this happens a lot, because I think the accounting industry, especially at bigger firms, like, oh, you're you're a staff accountant, you're an accountant level 1, accountant level 2, controller 1, controller 2. There's all these titles. You're a principal, you're a partner. There's all these titles, but really, you should be able to do what you need to do to get work done. Like, don't get, locked into that. And that was the best advice I think I heard.
I love that. I think like it reminds me of a very interesting story about, I don't know if it's completely correct, but it's still, still smart message. So before airlines started in the US, and this aviation magic began, the strongest, political money access was trains.
Yeah.
And the reason, and they missed that wave of aviation completely, because their definition of what it is that they do was, we do trains. We don't, do transportation and connect people from A to B in the fastest way possible. We do trains. And that, I think, limited them from seeing those opportunities. So I don't know, it's when you said that, it sparked that.
I think that's an issue, I think, in general with accounting firms, right? Like, well, we do tax, or we do audit, or we do bookkeeping, but then like, we don't do this, articles of incorporation, or help you with your meeting notes. Like, that's law. that we're not doing that. But let's just say in a perfect world, between, QuickBooks Connect comes in the fall. Everybody should go to that conference. It's amazing, right? QuickBooks Connect's in the fall, and QuickBooks they've been working on AI stuff a lot. They roll out something where essentially now bookkeeping takes 8 minutes a client per month. What are you going to do with the rest of your time? Right? You're going to probably offer other services. You're not going to be so locked into, well, I only do bookkeeping. Well, not really. QuickBooks does all the bookkeeping now. Now what? Right? You're right. Firms need to expand what they offer clients. Right? Like, what is this offering? What else do you do for them?
I think it ties back to what you said in the beginning. I think the definition of what it is that you want will dictate most. Because if someone has, a deep desire, and this is what we're seeing a lot in Anchor, like, and in many, small businesses in general, you come in, you build a business from a certain desire. You want to fire your boss, you want to have, financial freedom, you have a desire to help people in a certain aspect. And then, the grind of being, a business owner takes its toll, and you distance yourself from what you wanted to get, and you just keep either, grow, and then burnout. Or sometimes I feel that there's a disconnect between, what people actually want out of the business and what reality ends up dictating. And a big part of our journey is to free that time so that they can actually ask these questions. And I think like a big part of AI, or like these tools, this is something that we're developing, is matching expectations with clients. So right now, the way that we approach clients is we tell them, okay, this is the menu, this is what we have, this is the scope of what we cover. We don't necessarily have this conversation about, okay, what is it that you need? Let's brainstorm on it. Let's see. And then I'll see if I can actually, go out of my way, be, out of the scope to actually facilitate that. And it makes sense, like, because people are overworked, you trying to just roll it. And if something that can, I think really can come out to be really beneficial for this space, is leveraging technology, not just to save time and save money, which is obvious, but actually having some sort of, mental bandwidth to ask these questions again.
Yeah. I mean, even as you redefine the scope of work at your firm, and this is where Anchor is great, right? Like, you guys call them live contracts or live agreements. Like, what's the word you use? I should know this, right? I should know this, but you call them live, they're living documents in a way, right? And because that's the disadvantage of like the old style, like I use Microsoft Word, I create an engagement letter, I give it to the client, and now scope's changed. And now I'm like, okay, now I'm creating a new Word doc, sending that to them. Maybe I'm putting in like a DocuSign. It's just this big annoying dance, right? But like, you guys are coming in like, okay, here's the quote. They accept it. Maybe there's some options they toggle on or off. And then if the scope changes, you can easily change the scope, and then the client gets it and they just say approve. right? Their billing info is already in there. It's not starting from scratch. They're not doing a second DocuSign. They're just approving that individual scope change. And so that's something you're right. Like you want, going back to that question about like looking at tools, you want something that's going to give you some elbow room in the future when you do grow and change, right?
I completely agree. So I'm trying to think about, what other value we can bring, the people that have been with us for the full hour. And, what comes to mind, and, we covered quite a bit of, a lot of topics, but I want to invite everyone listening. We're going to be at Scaling New Heights soon. It's, I think, a week and a half away. And we want to invite everybody to, we're going to send a link, and we invite everybody to jump on the opportunity to meet with you, David, one-on-one for a consultancy session. You need to sign up for that, and link we're going to soon send. And for people that you want to talk about, how we're able to maybe help them in a sort of a gift.
Oh yeah. So if you book a session with me, right, you can get a free subscription to Earmark. So the Earmark app's like $99 a year. Anchor's going to pay for your once-a-year subscription if you do the book me with the session. But the real beauty of the session, or doing it this way, Omri, is when I'm at these conferences, I get very busy very fast. And a lot of people know me, and I walk around a lot, and you see people like, hey, I want to talk with you today. And 3 days of the conference goes by, and then you don't come back, you don't see them. It's not a thing on purpose. It's the hustle and the buzz of the conference. It just happens that way. And this is like, oh, Anchor is literally anchoring me down to a chair, right? For, 10 sessions or whatever it is. And so 10 or 12 of you, depending on, I don't know how many sessions you've locked me down for, can actually literally come and sit down with me. And I'm not getting up to leave. I'm not walking through the hallway and we're crossing paths this way. Like Anchor's locked me down, like anchored me to a chair. So you can come see me in the Anchor Lounge, but you have to book time though, right? I think is the trick here. And I think in the chat, it's the link is in there.
Just place the link, and we'll send that on email immediately after this. And I think, I highly recommend meeting you. I think we had so many conversations over, the past 2 years. And if there's something that I can definitely say is that you can pack more information per unit of time than most people in this space. It's the energy, maybe it's the knowledge, or maybe both, but very beneficial. So whoever schedules gets to be with you on the one-on-one, come with prepared questions. And I think, David can definitely make a dent in your business.
And if I don't know the answers, I know who does. I've just been around a long time. So I usually know who has the answer.
And, right now, when you're saying we need to anchor you down, I think, we'll need some super glue, gorilla glue.
No, but I remember last year you were at Scaling New Heights, and you stopped by to say hi, and I couldn't have more than a 3.5 minute conversation with you. It gets crazy, right? We had to, you have to do a Zoom call 2 weeks later, or who knows, right? So, yeah, I think it's this is very, and it's kind of funny saying that you're anchoring me down to a seat.
We're doing good luck for us. I think, it's going to be probably going to go between the booths all the time, but we're going to have Ron Baker there, Eric Green there, Gaynor there. So a lot of good people.
It's like a party.
It's a party, and more than anything, I think it's, birds of a feather flock together. It's people that care about, the accounting space and want, and are willing to give out of their time to help, the people that are, I think, part of our community. And so for me, it's I'm really appreciated. I don't take anything for granted. And I want to thank you for, participating. So
thanks for having me today. And we'll see you, what is it, 10 days from now? It's soon, right? It's close. Maybe it's 12, it's 14, it's close, right? 14 days, I think.
Yeah, that's going to be fun.
I should know better, but yeah, I'll just have to, I just go when the flight says board plane, and then I go.
You need to teach me that. All right, so I think we can wrap up, and I want to thank everybody that was with us. And I hope that you've got some value out of this conversation and some nuggets, or at least something to think about in the future, and understanding, that I think we're living in a very exciting, point in time that we need to, we got an opportunity to do something special here. And I think most businesses won't look the same in 3 years. I think that the accounting space can look so much better, and this is our journey. And I think and the people that are here probably are exposed to most of the new things. So I think, they're definitely going to be on the top 10% of the space. So good luck for us all.
Amazing.
All right, guys.
Thanks, Omri.
Bye.